from the panel of elections professionals in Florida. Broward County is the second largest county in the state of Florida. It's situated comfortably in South Florida between Miami-Dade and Palm Beach counties. Broward's demographics include more than 1.8 million residents who represent various and diverse designations: cultural, ethnic, racial, and economic. Broward remains a tourist and seasonal destination for visitors from around the world. Broward has the second largest electorate in Florida with more than 1 million voters. This also ranks Broward as one of the 15 largest voting jurisdictions in the country according to data maintained by the Pew Foundation. Following the 2000 presidential election, Broward had its own history-making event with the removal of the supervisor of elections who had won her new seat during the 2000 general election. A supervisor was appointed by then Governor Jeb Bush. This supervisor will complete 10 years of service in 2013. The supervisor was selected from a field of 9 candidates. Perhaps the quality that resulted in her appointment was her successful career as a lifetime educator in the Broward County Public Schools. This supervisor relied heavily on communication as well as planning and organizational skills to establish systems and procedures that would form the framework for successful elections. It became evident very quickly that election preparation does not happen overnight, nor does it happen in a vacuum. The creation of a mission statement helped to focus who we are, our product, for whom the election is conducted, and the quality of the expected outcomes. Election preparation begins no less than 1 year prior to a scheduled presidential election. The planning is accomplished through the coordinated efforts of a team of leaders who have distinct and unique responsibilities. All team leaders research and plan implementation strategies for their area of specialty. The planning is shared and coordinated with our team leaders and staff through retreats, strategic planning sessions, presentations, and weekly planning meetings. The team leader structure is reflected below with a director who is responsible for each function. These functions include election coordination, finance and human resources, technology, voting equipment center coordination, election day operations, voter education and outreach, voter services, public services, and election planning and development. During the 2012 presidential election, the paid staff and volunteers of the Broward County Supervisor of Elections Office processed more than 750,000 voters very successfully. There are states whose residents don't total this number. This was accomplished even though there were restrictions and limitations on resources. A summary of the work of this office in preparation and conduct of this successful election is included in a bulleted format, and I'll read from the following pages. In reference to the number of polling places, locations, operation, and design of polling places, we conducted elections for voters in 739 precincts housed in 452 polling locations. We surveyed every single polling location to assure that it met the requirements for conducting an election. We created detailed drawings that show the path of travel to entry, exit, emergency exits, and disabled voters' path of travel. We illustrated the flow of voters through the facility each step in the election process. We illustrated the placement and setup of all equipment, power locations, and station setups. We maintain updated contact information for the person in charge of the facility. As it relates to training, recruitment, and the number of workers, recruitment is ongoing throughout the year via outreach events, high school voter registration drives and athletic events, web page advertisements and notifications, advertisements targeting voters in each municipality, as well as word of mouth from current workers. A database of 15,000 poll workers is maintained for recruitment purposes. 5,000 to 6,000 workers were trained and assigned and placed in polling places on election day. Training is 4 to 5 hours in length and consists of the following learning concepts and strategies: adult learning, lectures, problem solving and comprehension of election law, procedures and processes, hands-on activities through labs to reinforce skills and increase workers' level of confidence, knowledge of equipment operation and troubleshooting procedures, assisting disabled voters, providing Spanish and Creole speaking workers for language assistance. They are trained in provision of ballot processes and procedures. All assigned workers must demonstrate competency on an end-of-class event in order to be placed in a polling place on Election Day. In terms of accessibility for uniformed overseas voters, 90 days prior to the election, the Supervisor of Elections Office reaches out to UOCAVA voters using their last known information. In the past election, this was done through an absentee ballot request mailer. Voters are notified of the upcoming election, and they are provided specific instructions on how to vote and return the ballot using a dedicated fax line. And we've already heard of the benefits of the fax line. Management of voter rolls and poll books is accomplished through the following. We use the electronic voter identification system, have used it for about 3 or 4 years in our early voting and have expanded it to each and every polling place. Our workers access a live database that provides a better resource for ensuring the correct processing of a voter. We have multiple call centers that are established for troubleshooting, verifying voter eligibility, responding to procedural questions, and they are available to assist workers at their locations. We have technical assistance in the field to monitor the function of all electronic poll books and provide on-site assistance for malfunctioning equipment. In terms of our voter machine capacity and technology, the electronic voter identification system contains all voters' records through a live updated database. The DS200, which is an optical scanner, is in every precinct. We learned from the 2000 election that we must have a minimum of 2 in all locations. The voting system technician is a position that we have created. We have one in every location to make sure that the equipment functions properly. The VST is thoroughly trained in the operation of the equipment. We utilize the most up-to-date voting equipment, and it's maintained on a schedule recommended by the vendor. The equipment has been thoroughly tested and certified by the state of Florida, the Division of Elections. We continually analyze data from each election to guide decisions on the placement of voting equipment. We're going through a budgeting cycle now where we are requesting additional equipment, as I mentioned previously. The preventative maintenance is done annually to ensure proper functionality of the equipment. The voting machines are inspected thoroughly prior to distribution. Transport units are provided to enhance the capacity. In terms of ballot simplicity and voter education, our ballots are prepared according to the Florida Uniform Ballot Code. We make the ballot as easy to read as we possibly can within the framework of the code. When you have a ballot where there are pieces that have 654 words, it's extremely difficult for the voter. We have provided feedback regarding the impact of the long amendments in the ballot preparation process, as well as in the comfort level of the voter. In terms of voter education and outreach for the previous election, we provide an extensive program of voter education and outreach that includes media strategies such as advertisement in movie theaters, videos focused on specific election information, strategic placement of billboards along Broward's interstate highway system, participation in community-sponsored events, speaking engagements, establishing and sustaining partnerships with community-based organizations, businesses, and governmental entities, including Homeland Security's Immigration and Nationalization Services, where new citizens register to vote immediately following swearing-in ceremonies. We conduct biannual high school voter registration drives, resulting in more than 60,000 newly registered voters over the past 10 years. We have negotiated with the local school district to close schools to students on election day to allow them to actively participate in the election process on election day as workers. We collaborate with Broward's 31 municipalities to offer assistance and guidelines and their ability to educate voters. We have created a sample ballot as an instructional tool that is mailed to each voter's household. In terms of voter accessibility for the disabled, special needs, and limited English voters, all polling places and early voting sites meet the requirements of ADA facilities. We have gone out, evaluated each one, and have made accommodations for those sites as is necessary. We design and set up all sites so that voters with disability can navigate the path of travel, the entry process, and the exiting of the facilities, and have access to adequate parking. We prioritize the handling of individuals with disability and or special needs or language assistance within the Florida state guidelines. We recruit, train, and place bilingual workers who speak Spanish or Creole to provide language assistance inside the polling place and early voting locations. We set up special stations for voters with disabilities to sit and complete a ballot rather than stand at a booth. We utilize the Ivotronic voting unit, which provides audio ballots for visually impaired voters, and we utilize bilingual staff to handle phone inquiries from voters requiring language assistance. Provisional ballot processes and procedures. Workers contact centers to verify that a provisional ballot is necessary. We train all poll workers in the processing of provisional ballots. We maintain contact with a polling place throughout the day to monitor the number of provisional ballots that have been issued. We collect all the information from voters, verify the voter's eligibility, that the voter has not already voted, and we give the free access information. Voters place their ballots in the envelopes, the clerk signs and prepares information. The provisional ballot is placed in a secured sealed box, and the voter signs the provisional ballot. After the election, the staff determines the voter eligibility within the 2-day time frame that is established by Florida's election laws. Issues presented by the administration of the absentee ballot program. The volume of voters who responded to the widespread publicity regarding in-office voting on election day was a major issue for Broward County. The new request for pickup of absentee ballots on election day was an issue. The receipt of 15,000 absentee ballots with the last run to the post office on election day. The ABs that were not delivered through the mail service. Ballots that were received by the voter on the Saturday before the election, although they were mailed 1 month prior to the elections. Ballots that were trucked to the city of Opelika, Florida, to their post office due to the inability to process the ballots in the Fort Lauderdale branch, as has always been the practice. The complaints from out-of-town voters who reported that their local post offices were closed, they could not receive the ballot. The deadline for voters to request absentee ballots to be mailed 6 days before does not allow adequate time to print, prepare the AB package for mailing, and to have the voter receive it and mail it back to us in time. This deadline needs to be reviewed. In conclusion, I applaud the Commission on your efforts to thoroughly review the elements of the past presidential election. I hope your work will lead you to conclusions that will benefit the overall election process in a fair and objective manner. As one of the Florida senators remarked at the opening of the Senate hearings on elections and ethics, there's certainly enough blame to go around. I hope you will balance your findings with a thorough evaluation of all elements that make for and support successful elections. Again, thank you for listening to this panel of election professionals.
Thank you very much.